Okay.
Okay, nice, no problem.
All right. Let me pray and then we get started.
Thank you.
Father in heaven, we thank you for the opportunity we have to learn and train and study together. I pray you'll bless us tonight. Be with Cleo as she shares. I pray that you would speak through her and teach us in this important subject. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Okay, so I need to share my screen. So if I press share my screen and just click on share my screen, would that do it?
You could share, when you share your screen, you could share your whole desktop and whatever's on your desktop will see, or you can share a particular window if you just want to share your PowerPoint presentation. Then just,
okay, cool.
Yeah, you got it.
Can you guys see now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to put it onto a slideshow kind of format. Okay. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Okay. So health and safety training. This is going to be absolutely exciting training. I try to say that with so much kind of a flat line. I mean, it's Sunday night, it's Valentine's Day, and you're sat on high health and safety training. Great day to be picked to do this kind of training, but hopefully it will not be much of a, it won't be much of a bore or, oh, why am I doing this or why am I here kind of thing. I'm hoping you'll get something from it and, hopefully kind of give you a background as to why I do what I do. So the outcome of the training, just to understand some basic principles really of risk assessment, to understand how, what is a risk and how to evaluate risk, figuring out how do you control those risks. And then once when you control them, you then have to monitor and review what you've done. But before we get into all of that, Adam has kind of done this particular element for me. So I don't really need to share much about myself. But what can I add in here? I could probably add a little story. So health and safety as a chosen career path for me was one of those things where you kind of hit a certain point when you're young, and then when you're younger, what do I do at uni? What do I do nursing because everyone else is doing nursing, or your parents expect you to do nursing because they're nurses, and then you want to break the mold and when you want to kind of come out of that, but then you kind of think, okay, what do I do? And I think in searching, I knew that I wanted to do something that worked with people. That was one thing I wanted to do. I want to work with people. And so when I went to uni, I did environmental science first year and then environmental health and safety second year, which I really enjoyed. And then I was told it's a very male-dominant environment, which it is, very older men in the field that I work in. But the one thing I really like and that I really enjoy about it is that I get to make sure that you go back home the way that you came into work, if not better. So I don't have to worry about you going home with the missing element, fingertips, limbs, etc., and that type of thing. So for some people, it's, oh, health and safety, why would you do that? But for me, it's why would you not do that? Why would you not want to make a difference in somebody? And it's just adding that human element to the, do we really have to? But and more the, absolutely, why would I not want to do things safely? So, so that's the kind of the why I do it. But yeah, I'll share more as we go. So the background to health and safety, it's everyone does it because the law requires you to. And that's the basis of it. You do it because the law requires you to, but you also do it because it's the right thing to do. So it was the right thing to do. And then some people were not doing it. And then it was not until 1974 where they decided to put a law on how employers should and will do things safely. I'm trying to see if I can move this. There we go. That's better. I was blocking half my screen. Anyway, so so health and safety and the background. So one of the most important elements within the Health and Safety at Work Act is Section 2.1, which says employers must, as far as reasonably practicable, the health and safety and welfare of their employees. And so what is that and what does that mean? So as an employer, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, they employ people who then have volunteers who then take up certain roles. And as the church, they need to make sure, as far as reasonably practicable, that they maintain the health and welfare of their employees or people who come within their space, their sphere, their activities, etc. And so, well, what's that going to do with risk assessments then, if you're saying that the health and safety law requires you to? So for you to be, so under the Health and Safety at Work Act, there is all these different other regulations that come under that. And one of them is one that requires you to do risk assessments, which is the Management Regulations 1999. And so we'll go through that in how we will then get to the risk assessment element. I don't like not seeing people. I'm not sure how I can balance the two. How do I balance the two, Adam? I like seeing people's faces, and I also want to see them. So I don't need to see my presentation. I want to see more people's faces so I can see what the engagement is like and any questions, etc.
When you're sharing your screen, it's pretty hard. You can sometimes on your side, there's an option to see like 3 or 4 of the people, but that's the most you can do.
Oh yeah, I can see the 4 chosen. 6 actually. I can see 6, but 2 of them are you and me, and so and then the rest are kind of hiding. So it looks like I'm seeing the ones with their cameras on, so which is good. So I can see Serena, I can see Wellingborough, Marla, and Farry. Hi guys. Okay, so can I use the chat element? Or maybe just unmute yourselves. If you just give me a score of 1 to 10, where would you think your understanding is of health and safety or risk assessments? Just unmute and just shout a number.
Yeah, I've had to do them at uni, and I did a health and safety course a few years back in 2014, I think it was. So I have a good understanding of it.
Good.
It made me laugh. Marla said she did a health and safety course, so did I, but I'm going to be honest, 3.
It's funny because Marla didn't even give a number. She just said she did a course. So, I'm just trying to see what that was.
That was in 2015, actually. So it's been a while. But
okay.
I had to do a lot of risk assessments at university anyways for video and film production. So I know how to manage risk and identify them.
And I'm glad you came anyway.
And I used to work with the NEC media department, which was also a lot of risks that we had to deal with. So yeah, there's just been a lot of that throughout my life.
Okay, well that's good to know. What about everyone else? On a score 1 to 10, where would you say your understanding of risk assessment is?
I'll probably say about 5. I've done a course as well.
Okay.
I used to do care work, so yeah, but I think that's probably gone for me now.
Okay.
I would say around 7 because regular like work related training every few months. So yeah.
Thank you, Serena.
Say for me about 8. I actually had to do one the other day for work.
Oh.
But I guess for church, that's the one the part that's to deal with children and that kind of stuff. I could probably get some more information on that from the church perspective.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
I'd say 5.
5.
I've had to do a couple for church events before, but not for a while. So.
Thank you, JD. Masunda?
I'm going to agree with whoever said 3. I did a couple for work, but that goes, you SWOT to pass those online assessments. And yeah, that's about it. So yeah, I'm quite intrigued and ready to learn what you have to say today.
Thank you, Renda. Okay.
Sorry, I would say 2 or 3, so not
2
very
or
well.
3. Thank you. Okay, Oscar? Give me a number from 1 to 10, any number. I'm joking. I'm just checking to see people's understanding of health and safety and risk assessment is, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very good, 1 being, first time. You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, that makes sense. I've done a little bit of health and safety from some of my jobs that I've done in the past. So I know quite a little bit about it, but not enough to not need a refresher.
And Daniel?
I'd probably say 1.
1, okay.
I haven't looked at it before.
Okay. So nice good mix. I've got a mix of pros and a mix of newbies. I've got some that do it on a regular, some that not quite. Adam? I missed you out, sorry.
Me? Well, probably somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle. Okay. So I think I've got a couple of pros here that can help me out as we go along. Feel free to just unmute, check a couple of questions or comments. Love to hear it. I don't want to be talking at you all evening, guys. It's not going to be a long thing, but I just don't want to be. I'm just conscious that it's going to be a lot of talking from me. So what is a risk assessment? Because that's the main focus of what we're doing really here. Not to make understand necessarily everything about health and safety, but to understand, how to carry out a risk assessment, the step, and what to do once you've carried that risk assessment out. Because surely once the pandemic is over, or even during the pandemic, you're still going to want to go out and do activities, etc., with people, with your youth, or here and there. So a risk assessment is a step-by-step process for controlling health and safety risks caused by hazards in the form of an activity. So that's meant to be in safe form. And there are 5 different steps that you would take to risk assess. So the first thing that you would do, you'd identify the hazard. So what is the hazard? So whether you're, say for example, you go to Aberdeen, or you decide that you want to do a camping trip, or you decided that you want to do some painting in your youth hall or something like that. So identify what you're doing, and then from when you know what you're doing, what is the hazard? So what things can cause harm in that particular space or activity that you want to carry out? And then the next thing you'd figure out is who is doing it, what, when, and where. So are you doing it with people who are using wheelchairs? Are you doing it with young people? Are there pregnant people in that sphere that you're working with? So it's more having a look with what's the group you're working with, what are they bringing, and how are they different from each other, and then that would help you to risk assess appropriately, because then you'd take into account people's different needs, etc. Where is it happening? Is it outdoors? Is it indoors? Is it on the beach? Is it, so what kind of activity are you doing? So once you know all those things, you then think, okay, how can I control it? Or how can I eliminate or minimize the exposure of that particular risk? And what good is it to risk assess if you're not going to write it down anywhere and just risk assess and just let it go? Nobody knows that you've done the risk assessment because there's no evidence for it. And then you then review your controls to see if they work or not. So we're just going to go through a couple of, I think I've got some pictures, so some hazard spotting that requires you guys to unmute yourselves and just shout out. It's fine. You can just shout out, what risks do you see? So can you spot any hazards in this particular picture? And if so, what hazards can you spot?
The wires are trailing across the room.
Nice one, trailing wires.
There's a spill on the floor. There's water on the floor next to the kitchen.
Thank you.
The cupboard is open with plates forwards.
This one here looks like my house, yes. That's my house every day. My husband always says, I can't believe you work in health and safety and you leave this cupboard doors open. Yeah, thank you. What else?
It looks like there's a obstruction where the door is. There's like some boxes obstructing the door. Like
am I looking at here?
Yes.
Yep, lovely. Yep. So when you open the door, there is, yep, well done.
It looks like the bookcase where that lady's about to pick up a book is leaning forward. So that's been stable.
It does, right? It looks like it's been propped up. Oh, sorry. It's like it's been propped up. Yeah. What else? Is that all?
At the table where the gentleman is squinting with one eye, there's it might be a light, but also on the table, there's a knife and a broken plate, it looks like.
Yep. Looks like it, absolutely.
The man in the center, he's lifting the box. Struggling. He's struggling. It's a heavy box.
His face looks like he's struggling, right?
Yeah.
Lovely.
The chair is missing a wheel as well.
But hey, nice one, guys. This is great. You guys don't need this training. You guys are pros. Okay, so you guys. Yeah,
it's 8 p.m. It's too late for them to all be at work still.
It's 8 a.m. or is it 8 p.m.?
I don't
Good
know.
question. 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. Okay, so you guys, so if we go back to our 5 steps, you guys have literally nailed the identify the hazards element, right? So literally, you pick a task or you walk around, you know, the activity that you're doing, identify the hazards. So what are the hazards? Write them down, literally. Took a bit of paper. This is the room that we're working in. This is the space. This is the sphere. This is the activity or whatever it is. And just do what you did in this picture. What are the things that could hurt somebody? So you've identified the water, the lifting, the blocking, the trading cables. So that's the identification of the hazard, right? So, okay. I've got another picture. I've been doing a bit of trolling on the NEC Instagram page because I know they post some Aberdeen stuff just to see what we can spot as any hazards in this picture. You can unmute because everyone seems to be on mute. If you're talking, I can't hear you. What you got?
So they've got work gloves and none of them, only one person is wearing them.
They've got work gloves and only one person is wearing them. Okay.
They're distracted for taking a picture and only one person is working really.
They're distracted from taking a picture. Uh-huh.
Is that like a drill or something on the ladder?
Oh, maybe Adam can enlighten us. What's that on the ladder, Adam?
It's electric screwdriver.
Electric screwdriver. Thank you. Okay. I've got a couple more pictures. It's very interesting what you find on the internet when you go trolling. I didn't pick these because they were the only ones that I picked where it was people working or doing some form of work where you'd expect to have a risk assessment for, or I would expect to see a risk assessment for. So what about this one? What's happening here? Can someone describe what's happening here first before we go to what the hazards are? You're on mute, Fari, I think, if you're talking.
Somebody was walking on the
Sorry, I was more talking to myself saying I have no clue what the game is that they're trying to play.
I'll tell you, it's you got however many, 15 people holding a rope in a circle. They all hold it and lean backwards. And then you have the guy with the t-shirt with B on the back on the left-hand side. He is walking round on the rope that's kind of held at about a meter high.
Oh.
So it tests his skill. It tests his skill of walking on rope and it tests the group's strength. But everyone has to hold together. That's what's going on.
Glassfoot, you're shaking your head. Do you want to tell me why?
It's a fun game, but I tell you what, if it goes wrong, it goes wrong.
Okay. But that doesn't mean we can't have fun though, right? We can still have the fun. I just want to show that we can still have the fun, but what steps do we need to take before we can enjoy that fun? And I think I kind of got like a zoomed in picture of it. I think I managed to find one further down. So what's this game called, Adam? Has it even got a name?
It's not so much a game, it's team building. So the point is everyone has to hold the rope together. and you're as strong as the weakest link, so you just all have to hang on.
So what things do you have to consider then if you're doing this? What kind of things, as a youth leader, you have to put on a team building event, and this is one of the activities that you have to do because it's going to test your team, the communication, the strength, the working together, that morale. What kind of things would you expect to kind of think about before you can let them all just climb? You're going to put a rock on the floor and say, here you go, guys, do this. What else would you have to do before you even get there?
Is there someone on hand to help with like A&E or something? Because it could all go wrong.
Are we talking first aid?
First aid. That's it. First aid.
Thank you. Perfect. Yes, Hannah. First aid. Sounds like Hannah. Hi, Hannah.
Hello. Yes.
Hey, babe. What else?
I'd have a helmet personally.
But you have a helmet, not because you don't trust your team leader, but you don't trust yourself.
No, just for the helmet for the person who's on the rope, just for safety.
Nice one. Okay, a helmet could aid if you fell. You could hit your head first, then or you could, depends which body part would hit the floor first. It's about 1 meter high off the floor, by the way. So it's just bear that in mind as well. What else?
How strong the rope is.
How strong the rope is. Adam, do you want to explain the principle on how? Because that's just not one little rope.
No, it's a rock climbing rope, so it's proper strong rope. But we've wrapped it around 3 times, so it's not just a thin piece. There's 3 actual kind of ropes there, if you know what I mean.
Okay, so why did you do it into 3? Why not just do 1?
To make it thicker.
Why would you make it thicker?
Because it would be easier to walk on then, and also for the hands, so it's not 1 rope would be kind of biting, 3 ropes would be thicker.
Okay, so Adam pretty much just kind of spoken through the process of how he risk assessed that will be okay. So he wants to do this activity for the youth. He doesn't want anyone to get, to be walking on a thin rope. So putting 3 of them together.
Oh, no shoes as well. They had to be barefoot.
They had to be barefoot. Why?
I mean, not barefoot, but no shoes. He's got his socks on because it would be, you don't want them stepping on people's hands. And also it's easier to walk on rope when you just have bare feet as opposed to shoes. Okay. So I don't know what your name is. Glesford Wellingborough Church. So you've gone from shaking your head to no way to, okay. Do not talk me through that thought process.
Sometimes my reaction is not exactly about what is going on. So sometimes you read it wrong. No, I mean, it's a game I would take part in because I like the risk involved in it. So there's some risk, but obviously, it's I guess the people who are involved in the game understand what's expected, and they I guess are ready to adjust to the changing circumstances.
Okay.
I think as well that the youth should be able to know what they can handle and what they're capable of. The children that I might be a bit more concerned, but the older teenagers, they're fine. Like if they mash up themselves, I mean, you're old enough now. And then I think doing it on grass as well is probably
grass
better
and not on concrete.
Yeah, concrete's no, don't even do that with anybody. But grass should be all right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, go on.
I also noticed there's somebody in the middle. The guy in the red shirt is also behind the person who's walking on the rope. So is that another safety precaution, just in case they fall backwards, that they are caught?
Yeah, that's the idea. There was always a person in the middle. That's Leon Fuller there with his terrible Man United shirt.
Somebody's a hater, but we'll leave that for another day. If that means you're a Liverpool supporter, but anyway, just leave that there somewhere. So we've kind of gone through the process of, we want to do an activity, but health and safety is stopping us because health and safety is a killjoy. Health and safety won't let us do anything fun. But actually, no, you can do. You just need to take into consideration some of the things that, that could go wrong. So we've gone to, we've identified the task, we've identified what could go wrong. So, and then we've decided, let's not do it on a concrete, let's do it on grass. Let's make the person who's taking part take off their shoes. Everyone who's holding the rope has to kind of work together. And I am assuming, or, knowing how these events work, there has to be some kind of instruction given at the beginning before this particular activity starts. And that instruction, just give me a quick summary, Adam, of what that could involve. What would you tell people that are taking part in the activity?
I tell them the best way to hold the rope, how to squat. When they're climbing up, the person in the middle helps them climb, shoes off, lean back,
Yeah, no, that's good. So for me, so what would you collectively call that, what Adam just kind of described, if you were, or what's the term you would use for that?
Risk assessment.
Risk assessment, yes.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer, yes.
Safety guidelines.
Safety guidelines, nice one.
Yeah, instructions. I mean, yeah. How to work together.
Who said that? Who said instructions?
Me.
Nice one, thank you. So I have to kind of flick through the comments to see who's talking. Yes, so the importance of giving instruction, when you're doing, you have to give the instruction, kind of like training. You're almost giving them like a nice summary, like a handful of training guidelines, safety precautions before they start. You wouldn't just say, here's a rope, go and climb on it, make sure it's a meter off the floor and just leave them to it. You would give them some kind of processed, step-by-step kind of guidelines of what they need to do. And that, forms part of the risk assessment, where you've assessed and then you've decided that one of the things that need to come out of that is some kind of instruction for that group that's taking part in that activity. So everything that you guys are saying is forming part of this risk assessment. So what about this one? What's the risk in this picture? What's the hazard, should I say? Why are you laughing?
That's
close to home. Is it too close to home?
No, that's fine. Keep going, man. It's good. It's good.
Anybody?
It's a nail gun, not a staple gun.
Is that a nail gun?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So we have a nail gun at a youth event. Don't know what it's doing there, but somebody saw, looks like it was some renovations, was it? Renovations?
Yeah, for the chalets, we're like nailing the wood into it. So yeah.
Yeah. And what's he got? What's Adam wearing?
High vis.
High vis. What else?
Okay. A woolly hat.
Woolly hat. What else? One more thing.
Gloves.
Gloves. There we go. He's wearing gloves, and I'm hoping he was wearing them in both hands and not just the hand that's holding the, So I'm hoping he's wearing them in both hands. I can't quite see the other hand, but I trust he was wearing it in both hands because and interesting enough about this safety gloves, you've got different levels of safety gloves. Some are cut resistant, some are not so good, and so it just depends on what level you're looking at. So yeah, so I was just showing you these photos because some of you may have been to Aberdare and some of you may have taken part in youth events with the church and wondered, oh my goodness, how, etc. But just to kind of show you that there is a thought process behind these events and that it's not just a come and take part and no one has really put thought into it. When they do happen, people have taken the time to, kind of have a sit down and review and then, get you guys to take part. And so, which is what you also should be doing with your youth in your churches when you do events or when you do, take part in whatever else that you guys will be organizing. So yeah, I just thought I'll bring something closer to home than just a picture of the internet of an office area. Some of you are in offices and some of you working from home, etc. But yeah. So see what else is next. So we've done that. Okay, so we've assessed the risk, who might be harmed, etc. So you guys have been doing this as we talking, by the way, even though you don't think that you have been. And so then how do you measure what the risk is? How do you measure what the level of risk is? And so for the risk is severity, the severity of the consequence, if you look up here, times the likelihood of occurrence. That would then give you a score of what that risk look like for the activity that you want to do. So different people or different companies have a different way to measure their risk levels. And this is just one way, one method of doing so. I just thought I'd give you guys an example of what that would look like. So for example, if somebody fell off that rope, for example, what severity of consequence do you think that would cause? If you fell off that rope during that activity, just unmute and just shout me a number, or just shout, minor, significant, serious, major, or fatality. Just unmute and just give me a shout. And I just want to see just the word, and then we can talk through the reasons why.
Significant, maybe serious. It depends how they fell off.
So if you fall off, so you could be significant, which is number 2. So you could be absent from work, or you could be hurt for up to 7 days. Yeah.
Okay, then significant maximum.
Significant. Maybe. Okay.
I think 1 or 2, minor or significant.
Minor or significant. Okay. Why minor? Why minor and significant? Why not major injury?
Because it's not. I mean, it's not from a great height they're going to be falling, and there are other people around who can cushion the fall, like the person standing behind them. So I don't think it's going to be major.
Okay. Anyone else?
It might be like, say, bruising might not cause, like time off work, for example. It's so it classes minor in that sense.
Okay, so we have a minor and significant, and that's so we've got 2. Well, so we've got 1 and 2 on the severity, and it seems like there's a consensus, unless if anyone else wants to come with a different view. Anyone else think actually no? I think it could be more than that. No. Okay. What about the likelihood of occurrence? What is the likelihood that that person might fall off the rope? So we've kind of spoken through what would happen when or if they fall off. What about what's the chances of them falling off that rope?
I would say 5, depending on the person's balance.
So very likely, okay. Anyone else?
I would say 3.
3. So it's feasible. So it's possible, but not common.
3 or 4. I think
3 or 4.
It could happen, especially if they've not done it before. So yeah, 3 or 4.
Okay, thank you.
At the same 3 or 4, because sometimes when you're having fun, you're kind of busy laughing and your balance isn't always that good. So yeah, 3 or 4.
So what's another way I can verify or cross-check the likelihood of occurrence? Say, for example, I know nothing about this game. What else can I do just to help myself to understand what the likelihood of occurrence is? What can I check, or what can I ask to whom?
Well, I guess
cool.
You want to know if how the person feel about doing it. If they're not comfortable with heights, then probably might not be the best option. But if they're okay with heights and the athletic kind of and they're kind of athletic, I guess that's the word, or
The
whatever.
athletic, okay, yeah. Okay, so I can ask Adam, has anyone ever fallen off playing that game in the past, in the last, 2-3 years? When you've done that before, has anybody ever been hurt? Is a question I could ask, just to kind of measure the likelihood. If Adam turns around to me and says, we've done this game 5 times and we've had 15 accidents, people falling off the rope, where would you score that in the likelihood column? You've done the game 5 times, you've had 15 accidents.
5, very likely.
Very likely, okay. So I've done the game 5 times and I've only had 1 person fall off. Where would I score that? You're on mute.
3, feasible.
Feasible, okay. So this is just to kind of show that, risk assessment can be subjective in that it depends on who's carrying it out and it depends on how much digging you do. So sometimes when you're risk assessing, you need to speak to people who might have taken part in the activity before or who've done it before. You might want to check accident records to see if anyone has had an accident doing that thing before, depending on how new or how common what you're doing is. So judging from what everyone is saying, we would go for severity 2, because that was the highest one, and the likelihood was 5. So that was kind of like the highest one, 4 or 5. So we'll go with 5. So if I go down, so if I want to measure the score or the risk of this particular activity, it would be 2 for severity and then 5 for very likely. So then that would be a 10. And my risk rating would be medium. So it's a medium risk activity, and that will be about a 10 score. So, so if you said it was minor injuries and slight or rare occurrences, it will be a low, it will be minimal. And so this is kind of a grid that you would use if you're wanting to measure what the risk of an activity is based on based on what we've done with regards to, we've spoken through training, we've spoken through, instruction, we've spoken through, using 3 ropes, etc. So all these elements you would take into account before you would then measure what your risk rating is for that particular activity that you're taking or that you're doing. When things get to about 25, you really ought to stop and think, is this really worth doing? Is this something that I really want to put my youth through? Is this something that is worth the risk? And before you even get there, chances are there's going to be a lot of actions you would have to take for you to minimize the risk level of that activity. So in terms of controlling the risk, depending on what your score is, sometimes your score can be, if your score is high, for example, you'd want to see what else can I do to bring that score back down. So what else can I do to minimize the severity of the consequence? So if it was on a concrete, for example, that could be a 3 maybe, or if there was nobody in the middle who was going to be supporting that person, if they're 4, that could probably go up to a 4 maybe. If the rope was higher than 1 meter off the floor and they were holding it above head level, if someone fell off above head level, it was, that would be a 4, depending on how they fall or how old the person is, it might even be a 5. So you then put all these things in place to then minimize the risk rating of what you're doing. So you would look to, do you want to eliminate the activity? If you really can't eliminate it because we know we want to do this activity, can you substitute that, some of those hazards, can you substitute them? Can you replace and do something else instead? There can be engineering controls in place, there could be administrative controls in place. And then the last resort is you would give somebody PPE. So you would wrap them, I say this jokingly, you would wrap them in bubble wrap and give them a hard hat just in case they fall. But, obviously we've assessed the risk and we realize that no, the risk is quite low or is medium in this case. And so there's no need to go that far with the controls that we put in place. Does that make sense? How are we doing? Is there any questions at the moment? Is there any, where you guys at? in your understanding to what I'm explaining? Throw me a number in the air. Are you following? Are we together? 5. Thank you, Musanda.
I'm with you. I get it. I'm with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I get it.
You get it. Just throw me, I get it, or I don't. Just so I can know whether I'm carrying on or I'm going back a couple of steps.
Get it.
Get it. Thumbs up.
Get it.
Get it.
Yep, get it.
Get it. Get it. It could be a little song. Get it. Get it. Get it. But anyway, I forgot this is being recorded, so I have to behave a little. So when you're controlling the risk, there's one element that you have to consider, which is fairly important. And that is looking at the cost and the benefit to whatever control measure you're going to put in place. If, for example, say, for example, you only have, for the activity where you've got the rope, I'm going to use that activity because it's one that we've spent a lot of time discussing. If you've got the rope, say, for example, you're in an indoor area and there is no grass outside, and the thing I've identified is if I do this on a concrete floor, it's going to be a significant injury if someone does fall. So what else can I do, which could be less cost but beneficial in me to carry out this activity? So what controls could you? So say you couldn't take away the concrete and you couldn't have grass. What else could you do instead?
Put on yoga mats.
Yoga mats, lovely, thank you. So, anything else? Anybody else?
Protective, probably like some shoulder pads or some knee pads or something for the back and the head to protect someone in case they fall.
Lovely. That's brilliant. Thank you, Mal. Thank you, Oscar. So, so yoga mats are fairly cost effective, I would say. You can buy one in Aldi for £5.99, and then you can buy a fair few of those. You can put them on the floor, and you're going to reduce the severity of that injury somewhat by making the floor a little bit softer if somebody does fall, for example. So you can't necessarily say, I'm going to go and buy AstroTurf to put for this activity, because the cost of the AstroTurf kind of almost outweighs the benefit of doing the activity. So you want to weigh, the cost and the benefit of you putting certain controls in place when you're risk assessing, or when you're looking at the things that you need to you have to put in control in place. And whatever we do, the law always goes back to have you done everything reasonably practicable? Is it reasonable? Is it practical? So have you done everything you can to ensure you've met the reasonably practicable box? So if someone falls and breaks their leg on concrete, and then it goes, somebody goes to and puts a claim in, etc. It goes to court. The court says, did the church do everything they can to ensure that it was, reasonably practicable? And then the lawyer can turn around and say, no, they could have bought a yoga mat. The youth had a budget of £50. Even if your budget is £50 for your youth department, you can still buy a £4 yoga mat, for example, is kind of what I'm trying to kind of, get to. You have to weigh the benefit and the cost of what you're doing. Could Adam go and buy an AstroTurf to put, in Aberdarin to make sure that the injury doesn't happen? Not really. Do we have to do the activity? What else can we do instead? And so you have to record the findings. So where would you record the findings?
Is it supposed to be like an accident book or something?
So that's when you have an accident, you put it on an accident form. So what findings is, so we've discussed all this, right, verbally, but where would I record that? Where would I put that? On a form? On a risk assessment form?
Oh, of course.
Of course, right? So you would record your risk assessment on a form. Now, an interesting fact, okay, so a question I would throw out to you is a true or false answer. Okay, true or false. I just want to hear the word true or false, being shouted at. So all of you unmute your mics. I want to hear the true or false, the question that I'm going to ask in a minute. So unmute. Okay, so if you record a risk assessment and the case ends up going to court, can that risk assessment that you have filled in be used in the court of law as evidence or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
True.
True.
True. Are we saying true because everyone else is saying true, or are we saying true because we believe it's true?
We believe it's true.
It's a legal document, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes. A risk assessment is a legal document. It is a document that when you do it, you must do it to the best of your ability. And if you cannot do it by yourself, you must always seek help from somebody else who can help you to ensure that, because once you do it, you have to put your name to it. You just have to have a date to it. You're going to have to sign it off because it could be called upon in evidence in the court of law. So let me see how long I've got. I'll give you a little story because I like stories. So where I used to work before, so the reason why I do the job that I do, and the reason I remember why I do the job that I do is 2018. How far ago was that? 4 years ago? 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, I was getting ready to go to a friend's wedding. It was a Thursday morning, midweek wedding, Thursday morning, get ready to go to a friend's wedding. And I have my personal phone and I have a work phone. And then if I'm off work, I always take my phone, I keep it on silent, just in case. I check it every now and again, just in case there's something that happens that I need to, kind of give attention to, etc. Now, just before I went to bed on Wednesday night, I had a meeting invite for first thing in the morning at 8 o'clock from one of the directors. And I thought to myself, this is very strange because normally people put in meetings, first thing, like in the daytime, not at 11:30 at night. And then I remember saying to my sister-in-law, something is wrong, something has gone on, something is not right. And then she goes, what? I said, I've got a meeting invite for tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Now, my director well knows that I'm off work, number one, and that I'm at a wedding, so I definitely won't be available. And also, the people that are invited in this meeting are people who are very significant, let's say, within a business. So in the morning, get ready to, whilst we're getting ready, I log in for this phone call because I realized there was just a gut feel. I just have to log in for this meeting, even though I'm going to this wedding. I just have to log in and see what's going on. I can't do anything because I'm away. But however, I feel the need that, I just need to attend it. So I look into this meeting and the mood, the atmosphere, everything about it was not right, it was wrong. And then he's thank you for coming, thank you for, sorry for the last minute, etc. and all that kind of stuff. And then he carries on to say, there is no easy way to say this, but one of the sites, so I managed one of the sites. So we had a sister site about 40 miles away. So the sister site had a fatality the night when we put the meeting in. And somebody at work had been caught in a machine and had died in the workplace. And so your mind just has to race as to, okay, what does that mean? What's happened? What were they doing? How? But obviously there's no answers at this stage because we just know the fact. The fact is somebody at work was caught in a machine and they died. That's all we know. We know nothing else. Everything else that you hear or they say is all speculation because there is no evidence of what's happened yet. There is no investigation has happened. Nothing at all has happened. It's just the fact is somebody has lost their life in a place of work. And then my heart is, my goodness, how is my counterpart in the other site doing? So I finish off that call, I give him a call, he doesn't answer. And then that's okay, because chances are he is up to here with it because everyone's asking questions. Now, the first question is, was there a risk assessment for that machine where that person was working? That's the first thing anybody wants to know. Was there a risk assessment? And was the risk that this person could be caught in the machine, was it identified? If it was identified, was there any control measures put in place? And if they were, did they work? And did then anybody review them to see if they worked? And so now you're trying to find where's the risk assessment. Now you're a business, for example. Well, it was a business with, I don't know, 50 odd machines. You're trying to look through your records. Where's the risk assessment? Who did it? Was it a manager who did it? Was it the person themselves, in health and safety who did it? So who did the risk assessment is another big element. Was it somebody who was very new, who had no idea about the machine, who just did the risk assessment as a favor for somebody else? So I say this just to kind of bring home the fact that when you do a risk assessment, you don't just do it to tick a box and say, I've done the risk assessment. It's a significant document that can help save somebody's life if control measures are put in place correctly. I know it's a very extreme example in comparison to what you guys are doing, but within the church, you could have injuries which could end up in a broken, part of a body, a broken leg, a broken arm, a fracture, bruises, aches and pains. They're the little bits, the broken bones, maybe here and there. And when accidents happen, where they result in someone going to hospital or someone not being able to work for so long, they have to be recorded by law under RIDDOR. So so one of the regulations which requires you to record any significant accidents, and the church would have to do that if there was any broken elements or somebody being off work for so long. So I say all this just to kind of drive home the fact that a risk assessment, you can do it, it's subjective, but when you do it with the best that you can and seek help if you're not sure what you're doing. And it's not there to stop you from doing the activities. The risk assessment is there to aid you to do it in the best of your abilities and to make sure that you've taken away anything that could harm somebody. It's a very extreme example, I know, but that is the reality of my job and the things that I have to do at work. And so when you kind of bring it to the church element, it's the injuries more so that you have to really kind of, think about. And so recording the findings, I'll come back. Let's bring everyone back up again. So record your findings. This is a template you can find on the HSE website. So the risk assessment template. So you'd say what the activity is, for example. So it's a risk assessment for, I don't know, canoeing or whatever it is that you're doing. Company name or church name, who the assessment has been carried out by, the date of the next review. So you'd review your assessment on a periodic basis, whether it's once a year, once every 2 years, and you'd also review your risk assessment when you've had a significant accident happen. And importantly, what date, when was it carried out? Because dates, without a date, is pretty much a useless bit of paper, because you could have done it yesterday and just said, for something that that happened 2-3 years ago. So what does that look like what does that actually look like? So I've shown you the template, and this is what that could look like. For an office area, this is just an example that I took off the HSE website. So the hazard could be slips and trips, who may be harmed, everyone in that premises, so employees, visitors, staff members. What are you doing already to control the risk? So there's good housekeeping, the area is well lit, so there's no lights that have gone off. The stairs are fine, that no one leaves boxes on the stairs, etc. Is there anything else that I need to do? Could there be better housekeeping? Yes, in this case. There's some loose tiles on the carpet which could make people slip and trip. So who is responsible for doing that particular action? When does it need to be carried out by? And has it been done or not? And this will be a complete record of a health and safety risk assessment. So say, for example, this here arranged for a loose carpet tile on the second floor to be repaired or replaced is an action. And if I put in here, it needs to be carried out by the manager, when by, say, is the 10th of, I don't know, February, for example. And then come Monday, the 15th of February, somebody slips on that, on that carpet and they fall, somebody slips and falls and they break a tooth, or they, they really hurt themselves, or they really hurt their mouth, or whatever it may be. And I would when I come in to investigate that, I'll be like, well, there's an open action in your risk assessment that you clearly haven't carried out, and I want to find out why haven't that been carried out, etc. And then we'll kind of have a deeper discussion with regards to that. So you then review your controls. So you put controls in place. Are they working? Are your controls working? Yes or no? Are you seeing people who are still getting hurt by that activity, even though you've put controls in place? Then you might want to take a step back and review, have I put things in place that are really effective for this particular activity? And yeah, I think that was I was trying to stay within the hour-ish, and I'm very conscious that I might have sped up, quite a fair bit with that. I'm going to stop sharing so I can see everybody. But yes, hit me with any questions, or let's discuss any questions that you guys might have.
If you had an activity that there was a possibility of it being severe, but in all likelihood it probably wouldn't be, 9 times out of 10 it probably wouldn't be, would you put it down as severe because that's still a possibility, or would you put it down as the most likely?
So we're going back to, hold on, the grid. We're talking about the grid. Let me just share that. Hold on. So let me see if I can share it, Jody. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying, so talk me through that again. So you
yeah, so with the game with the rope, for example,
yeah.
We've said 1 or 2 level of severity.
Yeah.
But then I thought, what if, for example, they twisted the ankle? That might be more like a 3, which is a possibility, but it's less likely to happen. So would you put it down as a 3 because it's still a possibility, or would you put it down as 1 or 2 because that's more likely?
So I would always go for the thing that I feel would be the highest level of consequence. I would always err on the side of caution than be a bit cautious in scoring it low, so that, well, if I score it lower, then there's low risk. I want to be as realistic as I possibly can with the scoring. So if you think that there's a chance that somebody can twist an ankle, for example, then I would score it. Which is why it can be subjective, depending on who's scoring it. And if you're doing it by yourself, you have no one to kind of discuss it with. It helps to do it with somebody else who's involved or who's done that before, because then you can kind of throw back and forth some questions with regards to, do you think that could really happen though? And then they could say, oh, definitely, because I've seen it happen before, or nah, I think we're being a bit too cautious here. Anybody else with any questions?
Yes, I have a question. If it's a situation where I'm outsourcing the activity to like a rock climbing place, or something like that, I can't think of words now. Do I need to ask them for their risk assessment as part of my planning to say, okay, the kids are going rock climbing or they're going abseiling? Can we see a copy of your risk assessment for these activities?
There is absolutely nothing wrong with you asking for a copy of the risk assessment from a third party who will be doing an activity for you, because they should have one for all their activities anyway by law. So they should have one readily available that they can just give to you, which you can then share with your youth group. And because you won't necessarily know what the controls they have in place for their activities, and they're the expert in this activity, and so they've created an environment for you to decide. So what if, say for example, you turn up to the rock climbing that you've booked, you haven't seen their risk assessment, and they're not a registered business, they're just somebody doing it in the back of somewhere, and they don't have the right floor, they don't have the right ropes, they don't have their ropes checked every 6 months because they have to by law. And so there's certain things I expect to see in their risk assessment that will give me a peace of mind as a youth leader or somebody who's leading a particular activity. And so I would definitely reach out and ask for a copy, and they should not say no.
I have a question, Claire. Quite a few children have nut allergies, and what would your advice be on whether to take them out on a day trip or to go out and eat, even though we're probably going to be in a post-COVID kind of world, but still we may take them out as a treat to go out and have some ice cream or a lunch together. What is your take on allergies?
So are you providing the food, or are they bringing their own packed lunch?
So if you want to take them to a restaurant or somewhere.
Right, okay. So it would help for children if you ask the parents, for example, do any of the children have any allergies? And so you would then be more equipped when you go to a restaurant. So then you'd let the restaurant know, this child has allergy X or allergy Y. If, for example, you're going for a picnic where people are bringing their own food, kind of like they do in schools. Hannah, correct me here if I'm wrong. Kind of like what they do in schools. With my daughter, for example, in her classroom, they request that parents don't bring any packed lunch that has any peanut butter or nuts containing in them, just because kids won't necessarily just keep to their own lunchbox. I guess it depends also on how old the children that you're working with are. So if the kids are really little, 3, 4, 5, 6, I would kindly ask the parents to refrain from packing anything that contains nuts if you have someone with a high really high level of nut allergy. If you don't know, you can't control what you don't know, and so that's when then health and safety gets a bad name in the blanket. For health and safety reasons, you're not allowed to bring nuts. Well, why not?
Yeah.
There's no one there with the health and safety, with the nut allergy. So you can just err in the side of caution, but nobody has to know. Unless you know, you can't really control what you don't know.
Yes, thank you.
Nobody else is talking? No, well, no one's falling asleep. So I'm quite surprised actually for health and safety.
I'm intrigued to what level of health and safety do you have to do? Because you might have a situation where you're going like on a hiking trail or you're going cycling somewhere. So do you sort of preemptively check out the trail, or do you sort of just go with what you think might happen on the trail and go with that? Or is there a standard when we're hiking, these are the types of things that can happen?
I think there's certain activities where there are certain risks are inevitable. If you're gonna go trekking, Snowdonia Mountains or something like that, you're gonna have uneven ground. You're gonna have a drop on one side and not on the other. You're gonna have one person behind another, like a trailed walk. You're not gonna have people walking in two, but holding hands. It's etc. So it depends on. There's some certain activities or certain. So if you're going to the beach, for example, it might be a sandy beach. It could be a stony beach. It could be what are you doing there? Are you doing are you just gonna go I don't know, jet skiing, and then is people bringing their jet skis from home, or are you gonna hire them? So it just depends on where and what. I would say for a lot of activities, you're gonna have your certain bog standard hazards. And you can only control, like I said before, you can only control what you know. You can't control what you don't know. And so in you going to track that trail, before doing the risk assessment, you might be putting yourself at risk in going to do that to risk assess. So would you then need to pre-assess so you can assess that? So so there's a level of common sense is very much a common word in health and safety. So you have to do things that make sense and things that you can only do what you can. And as long as you can prove you've done what's practical that you can do, as practical as you can be, then that's all you can do. You can't be expected to know what you don't know. I hope that helped. Oh, I think she dropped out as well. So sorry, I think you dropped out when I was trying to answer your question.
It kicked me out. I don't know why.
I thought you got bored and just left anyway and said, "Oh, forget this." But anyone?
Sorry, you were explaining the bog standard risk assessment,
Yes.
and then you were saying I got cut off when you were talking about the actual trail.
Yeah, I was saying you can only assess what you know. So I was just saying to the guys, for you to go out on that trail, would you then have to risk assess the pre-assessment for that trail? So you know what I mean? So there's a lot of common sense that kind of approach that you'd have to take. We're going on this walk, you'd have a look online, has there been any accidents in this area? You tell everyone not to wear their high heels, for example, bring no slippers, bring your hiking shoes. So there's a reason why when you go to a youth event, you're given a list of things to bring that you're required to have for that event. If it's a residential for the weekend, they'll say bring appropriate footwear, bring this, bring that. There's a reason why they're telling you to bring those things, because there is a generic or a common sense approach to the risk assessment where they've said the youth will need to bring their shoes because we're going on a hike, and trainers won't cut it. They'll say bring walking shoes or suitable equivalent shoes.
Okay, all right, I can see that.
I hope that helps.
Yes, because I wasn't sure to the extent, would you have to do like pre-runs and check things, or would you just be going off of what you can find out and then adjust maybe whilst you're there?
Yeah, and there's no harm in doing a generic assessment for all youth activities. You don't have to do a risk assessment for every single individual activity that you do as a youth department. You can have a generic, this is our youth department risk assessment for the things that we know we will be doing, or things that we know that we have done in the past. And so you've got list of things that activities that you could do, and the controls in place, and who's doing what, what by when, etc. So you don't necessarily have to have one assessment for one activity, because you're going to have 50 or so depending on which youth club you're from and how active you guys are. So you can bulk it up or you can break them down depending on what you're doing. And that's a preferential thing by the individual department. There's no one umbrella suits all.
Okay, thank you.
Silent. That's good. That means they all want to go have their Valentine's Day for dinners.
I want to say thank you, because my knowledge from 3 is now, I can say either an 8 or a 9.
Thank you, Harry. That's very kind.
Excellent. It was very good. And thank you for using NEC pictures. Makes it more engaging. And good practical examples. Thank you. Any other questions from those watching? I hope we're able to put some of these in practice with real events before the end of the year, but we will see what happens with COVID. Yeah. But yeah, thank you for taking the time and for sharing and talking us through the practicalities of how to assess a situation, how to analyze, and how to grade it, and put measures in place. Really appreciate that. So thank you.
Yeah, I was hoping to bring, kind of use some practical examples, because I know that sometimes when you do a training, if I'm just telling you how to risk assess an office environment, because that's where I work, or a machine that, does whatever, you're just there like, psh, I don't know what she's talking about. But an event, some of you have been to Abadan, some of you will do activities in your car park, in your youth hall. Bulldog is a specific is a great example. Why do you separate the guys and the girls? Why why not just put everyone together? Why do you separate it by age ranges? So because someone has thought about the risk and the consequences, and a few times there's been an ambulance called at camp meeting, and that's part of the fun and the activity. But this, the severity was high, but still the cost and the benefit, still pretty much worth it. So thank you for bearing with me. I know it's not the most exciting topic, but it is a good topic though, if you really kind of follow it.
It's important, and in this day and age, it's not just the optional responsibility. It's a legal responsibility for leaders to follow through it. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I appreciate that. Much appreciated. So let's close with prayer, and then Father in heaven, we thank you for this time we've been able to spend together discussing this subject. I pray, Lord, that you would bless us as we plan for the upcoming year, and when we are doing things that are more than online events, and we're out there in person in our communities and our churches, going on events or retreats, I pray, Lord, that you would be with each one of us, that we'll be able to have fun, that we'll be able to have rewarding spiritual time, and most importantly, Lord, that we'll be able to do so without minimizing the risk as much as possible and protected by you. I pray, Lord, that we may be able to put these things in place when the time is right. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.